communities, strengthening faith.
الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين أرى.
Join me, Faizal MJ Suleman, this and every Saturday on Rise and Shine. Looking forward to gracing the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Rise and Shine.
الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. All praise is due to Allah, the Lord, cherisher, nourisher, sustainer, and master of the universe, the most gracious, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Ya Allah, it is only you that we worship, and it is your guidance that we seek. Ya Allah, keep us on the straight path. Ya Allah, show us your choice of blessings. Ya Allah, show us your mercy. Ya Allah, guide us. Greetings, salam, salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yes, it is the Friday night, the 15th of November 2024, the 14th Jumadul Ula 1446. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Let's Chat on Radio Al Ansar with myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. Yes, an absolutely beautiful evening here in Durban. It's nice and warm, and of course, it seems that the summer is coming in with a bit of a vengeance. Our topic for the first part of tonight's show this evening is: what would one do differently in marriage to get different results? Marriage can be one of life's most rewarding journeys, yet it often comes with its own set of challenges and learning curves. Today, we're diving into the question: what would one do differently in marriage to get different results? Whether you're newly married, in a long-term relationship, or even reflecting on past experiences, this conversation is for anyone interested in creating a stronger, healthier partnership. In our discussion this evening, we will be exploring how small shifts in habits, communication, and perspective can make a big impact on your relationship. Our special guest this evening needs no introduction to the airwaves of Radio Al Ansar. We say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our life coach, Sister Razia Mahomed.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa
Razia, Assalamu
barakatuh.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Okay, it seems some gremlins have crept into the system. We will just try and raise Razia Mahomed again, inshallah. Yeah, Nasheed in the meantime.
مقامهم فوق رأس الجبال وفوق الروابي وعند القمر. حياتي وفيا لأجلها لا البشر أقول له أفلح الأوفياء وحسب الوفاء يطيل العمر. هنيئا لمن أخلص الحب عمرا وسحقا لذاك الذي قد غدر. هنيئا لمن أخلص الحب عمرا وسحقا لذاك الذي قد غدر. أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين أغر. فأهل الوفاء كلون السحاب وحسن الربيع والمطر. أحب الوفاء بشتى الصور أحب الوفي الأمين الأغر. فأهل الوفاء كلون السحاب وحسن الربيع وماء المطر. مقامهم فوق رأس الجبال وفوق الروابي وعند القمر. ويا من تحب غياب الوفاء، رأيتك تهوى غياب البصر. وكم قائل قد أضعت حياتي وفيا لأجلها نال البشر. أقول له أفلح الأوفياء، وحسب الوفاء يطيل العمر. هنيئا لمن أخلص.
You're listening to Let's Chat on Radio Al Ansar. Okay, a few gremlins crept into the system, but we have online with our sister Razia Mahomed. Razia, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakallah khair for joining me on the program this evening.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear now.
Jazakallah so much for having me on again. It's been a while.
It has certainly been a while, and it's an absolute pleasure hosting you. Now, Razia, I did introduce our topic as what would one do differently in marriage to get different results. Now,
Right.
what are some common patterns or habits that couples fall into that may negatively impact their relationship?
So, a lot of the times I find that couples tend to live separate lives. So the husband has his own friends, his own activities that he engages in, and then the wife has her own things that she's doing. And then eventually what you see is two people living very, very separate lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the major things. Then I say also they go by societal belief systems, conditioning, all of those things. What are the roles? What are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? So it goes very much by what the people will say and not looking at the individual and what it is that we can do together to make this marriage work. Also, I find there's no respect sometimes, devaluing your spouse sometimes. And then, there's a thing called the love languages. So you need to learn what it is that makes that person tick.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's, again, the thing of dominance and submission. So one would be a dominant partner. The other one would be a submissive partner. And eventually that dynamic is going to blow up in your face because sometimes the submissive partner inevitably will get tired of being trampled on as such and then decide to retaliate. Also, when I find there's ineffective communication. So when there's ineffective communication, what happens is there's a communication barrier. So, that very fine line with what is being what is being said and the way it's being comprehended may be two different things. So those are just some of the things that can happen to cause discord within the relationship.
In fact, I think you hit the nail on the head because everything that you've mentioned, causes this friction and causes this tension, which you say as, over time can build up and it can explode as well. Now, in what ways can self-reflection and personal growth contribute to a healthier marriage dynamic?
I think it's that big letter word called accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we don't have a sense of accountability, then we don't have that behind our heads to say that actions have consequences. So when we know that our actions will inadvertently have a consequence, then we have that sense of accountability. And then that makes for a positive interaction because then you realize that I can't just say anything. I can't just do anything because my actions is going to have consequences which may be dire for the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a big thing. Then it's about better communication. So I would say listening to understand as opposed to listening to reply.
Yeah.
So when we listen and all we want to do is reply, then it has adverse effects, because what happens is that we just going on our merry way, just trying to reply without even really trying to see what it is that this person is trying to tell me. So when we listen to understand, you're learning something new. Because remember, when you're talking about things that you know of already. But when you're listening, then it's always learning something new. So that's a big thing as well. Another thing I would like to say is about compromise, right? And very much, we as humans, we don't like to compromise because we see life from our own personal lens. When you see life from your own personal lens, then what we do is we can only have a tunnel vision. We can only look at it as this is what he or she has said to me. This is what he or she has done to me. Not looking at what have I done to elicit that type of response.
So I think it makes a lot of sense as well. I think the problem that we have in our marriages is that we talk a lot of our rights and we forget our duties, because every right has a corresponding duty. If you worry about our duties, then there will be no violation of any rights. I know your thoughts.
Yeah, that's very well said. So it's very much about compromise, right? So when we compromising and we accepting that the other person has rights and the other person has some sense of duty as well. But when you are putting in mutual respect, mutual honor, mutual love into that relationship, automatically you are going to take that person into cognizance and you are going to say that your opinions matter. Or I feel that your opinions matter. I always say that marriage is not about trying to find common ground. Marriage is about accepting each other's differences. So the mistake that we make is that we're all constantly trying to look for the person that is perfect for us. Many a times I find people, be it clients or personal friends, colleagues, etc., will say, I'm waiting for that right person for me. I'm waiting for that soulmate. Or I'm married to this person and I'm going to change him or her into what I would like a spouse to be. And then we realize that we cannot change that person. The only person that you can change is the one that you're looking at in the mirror. And when you change your views, then automatically everything around you changes.
You know, you spoke of finding Mr. or Mrs. Right. Now, you know the problem. You know that you've got to ask them their first name, because if the first name is always, then you've got a problem.
This is so true. Sure.
Okay.
And what exactly is Mr. or Mrs. Right, right? Because Mr. or Mrs. Right is different for me and different from you because we have different conditioning.
Absolutely. Now, what are some practical steps for couples to take when they feel they are constantly arguing or misunderstanding each other?
So there's so many things that you can do, right? The first thing I would say is take a time out. Even in Quran, it says never ever reply whenever you are angry. Because when you are angry, you're going to make irrational and emotional choices and decisions. So it's about taking time out, pausing, reflecting, putting yourself into that other person's shoes, literally, and looking at why is it that they are telling me what they are telling me. Why is it that they are having these kind of responses? What am I doing to elicit those kind of responses, rather? So it's about cause and effect, right? And then it's also very much about active listening, because that shows respect. It's about giving full attention. It's about maintaining eye contact, respectful body language. If you are facing your body away from an individual, automatically it shows them that there's a lack of respect and there's a lack of attention. And when there's a lack of attention, automatically the defensiveness of the opposite person comes into play. A very big thing that I always like to say is the I messages. So let me explain what the I messages are. So instead of saying, you are like this, you did this to me, you did that to me, rather say, I feel disrespected when ABC happens. I feel. So automatically, when you take away the you from the sentence, the person's defense mechanisms do not flare up automatically. So what happens is that sense of blame is then removed and it makes for better communication. So the I messages are so very important. So every time you feel that urge to say, you did this, just pause, reflect, look back and say, I feel whatever the situation may be, as opposed to you've done this.
Let's look at expectations and roles. How do unrealistic expectations or rigid role definitions create tension in the marriage?
You know, sure, in the younger generation, in my work, without mentioning any names, I've come across people, young people, that have absolutely unrealistic expectations when it comes to a spousal relationship, when it comes to a marriage at large. So, you know, it's the whole real versus real life. So when you're looking at all the influences out there, and when you're seeing that picture perfect life and those perfect selfies and everything, and the international destinations, etc., and what their spouses are doing for them, automatically then what happens is then you feel a lack.
Yep.
So you feel that something in my life is not going right, because why don't I have all of these things, these wonderful things, because this person always looks so happy. And what we fail to realize is that no one has that picture perfect life that they portraying 24/7 of the time. They may have it some of the time, but they also don't have it some of the time, that people that are viewing things. So that is one of the big things when technology, social media, all of that has taken over. There's an unrealistic sense of what a union should be, an unrealistic sense of what a marriage should be. And that is bringing about the degeneration of so many marriages, and the fabric of family is deteriorating, because what the West has put into a woman's head is that you are nothing if you stay at home. You're just a stay-at-home housewife. When in fact, a role like that is the most important role in the fabric of society. So you can work, but any woman, when she comes home, and if she's a wife and a mom, she's got to be a wife and a mom, no matter what role she has in the secular space.
Now, you know, you mentioned compromise earlier. Compromise plays a huge part in the relationship. Now, what role does this compromise play in reshaping a marriage for the better?
So compromise is such a big word, because what happens is that when you take into account your spouse's thoughts, ideas, what they think is right or what they think is wrong, what happens is that you're then giving that mutual respect, right? And automatically, I know from a woman's point of view, if a woman feels like she is loved, when she feels that she is respected, she will automatically want to give that reciprocation, even double to what the man is giving. That's what I found in the years that I've been doing this work. So, now what's happening is that in yesteryear, the men used to be the breadwinners and the women used to be the homemakers. So now what has happened today is the roles are blurred. So the women are breadwinners as well. The women are homemakers. The men have become part of the homemaker scenario. And everything, the roles have been blurred now. So what happens with that is that now we need to define what is it that is your role, what is it that is my role, and how is it that we are going to enmesh it and make it something that is workable. So that's where effective and comprehensive communication comes in. Where you identify the roles, where you have clear boundaries as well. So there's so much that goes into a spousal relationship.
In fact, communication is absolutely vital, because almost everything that you've mentioned this evening, it sort of boils down to communicating with each other. Because by communicating, you can understand each other. You know your strengths, your weaknesses, etc., and you can deal with them. Now, having said that, how can spending intentional quality time together help to rebuild or strengthen their marriage?
I think that very much so, that's where compromise comes in, right? Because more often than not, you'll have different things that you find enjoyable. You're one of the lucky couples if the same thing make you tick, basically. So compromise means we will do what you like for some of the time, or do what I like some of the time. So then instead of you going off and doing it on your own, let's do it together. So it's kind of then you strengthening that bond, you strengthening that relationship, and also couples that pray together, stay together. So it's very much about that love connection as well, but together.
Okay.
And that fosters a better relationship with each other.
Sister Rush, you seem to be breaking up. Maybe if you can just slightly change your position or something.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear much better. Yeah, thank you. Now, I like what you said. Those who pray together stay together. Is that correct? I'm not sure if I'm...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, couples that pray together stay together.
Alhamdulillah. Excellent. Now, how do modern demands like career and technology affect the time couples spend with each other?
So it's very much about the work-life balance, right? Because technology and career demands are so vast nowadays that basically you can get lost in the phone. And before you know it, you'll be scrolling, and a few hours have passed. So you know how we see these little kids and they talk about screen time?
Yes.
I think that we should have screen time for adults as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I always see these young mummies and they say only 1 hour of screen time. And I think we should be telling husbands and wives that as well. 1 hour of screen time.
In fact,
yes.
I think wives will implement that better than the husbands.
But mind you, women can get lost in the phone as well. Because once you start reading about something, or once you start getting into something that interests you, before you know it, 2 hours can pass.
Yes,
absolutely. So it's about limiting that screen time, reducing stress levels. I would say, get in relaxation time, that's togetherness, and very much about the work-life balance. So that brings to mind a story about a tree, right? So this guy had a huge oak tree in front of his home, and every day he would take a small little packet and put it on just close by to the tree when he comes home from work. And when he leaves in the morning, after he's greeted his wife, he would take that packet and take it to work. So one day someone asked him, why is it that you do this? So he says it's to remind me to leave work at work and to leave home at home.
Okay, excellent. In fact, when you take your work home, then that also impacts on your relationship, because obviously it's a bit of neglect of each other as well. And
Very much so. And also, then you tend to take out your anger on the wrong people.
yes, absolutely, because you're taking your work stresses home, and then, as you say, the wrong person's going to catch it, unfortunately.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
what should a couple do if they feel that past mistakes or unresolved conflicts continue to harm the marriage?
I think then it's very much seeking professional help, rather accredited professional help, not the fly-by-night crash course life coaches. So seek the professional help to let go of the past, bring in a mediator, that's very important. And then I would say it's about learning to live in the now, in the present. Because remember, that present is the gift of now, right? Because the past is memory, the future is imagination. And we only have the now, which is the present. Then it's very much about forgiveness. So remember, it's very difficult for us as a layman to forgive, right? Because we feel that by forgiving, we are condoning whatever it is that person has transgressed against us or whatever it may be. But remember, by not forgiving, what you are doing is you are letting that person live rent-free in your head. So that person is going about merrily and happily, and you are holding on to that grudge, which doesn't help you in the least. So forgiveness is actually for yourself, to free yourself. And remember, Allah sees and He knows everything. So whatever is due to you, you will get, most definitely. So very much about forgiveness, learning to communicate, the I messages, and also just looking at life from a broader perspective, as opposed to always saying, this is what happened to me. I'm very sad. Me, I is always going to keep you into that one place, and you're not going to be moving forward anytime soon.
How important is building trust between each other?
I think trust is so very, very important. It is the fundamental pillar of any relationship. Because remember, when you don't have trust in a relationship, you're always going to be judging. You're always going to have that invisible devil that's always ready to judge and to execute that person mentally and emotionally. So it's about cultivating that sense of trust. And if a person has given you reason not to trust, it's incumbent upon that person to show you that they have changed. Because remember, we all sin differently, right? So it's not to say that somebody that has sinned or had erred cannot change. They can change. It's just up to them to show you that you matter enough that they will try to bring about different actions, because actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
So different actions is going to elicit different responses. And that is about mutual respect again. That is going to bring about those changes.
Now, let's consider a person's individual's emotional health. How can an individual's emotional health affect their role in a marriage?
So remember, mental and emotional health manifests itself in physical ailments. So when you find that, a part of your body paining or you are ill in certain areas, look for the mental and emotional effects that you are holding on to. And think about that and think of the large impact that it has on your overall psyche. And then also what you're going to do is when you have mental and emotional dis-ease, you are going to take it out on other people around you more than not your spouse, because you feel allowed. So you won't be able to make coherent and productive decisions. You'll have ineffective communication, and it will affect all areas of your life inadvertently. And unfortunately, the children are the one that will suffer in the end as well.
Now, are there signs that might indicate that, when it's time for a couple to seek professional help like counseling? What are the telltale signs?
Most certainly. I would say the first thing is when there's frequent and intense arguments and fight. And when it becomes public or when it's in front of the people that are living with you, that is a clear sign that you need professional help. Sometimes it's no communication, so it's maybe silent treatment. Then you need professional help. Emotional withdrawal, then the big one, the trust issues. Sometimes there's no physical intimacy, so that's also a big cause for concern. I would say the individual stress and trauma, maybe from work, and you're bringing it home because you don't have an oak tree in front of your house. So that kind of thing. And then it's about growing apart. Maybe one or the other may have strayed in the marriage, maybe had an affair. Very much the unresolved past as well. It brings about that not being able to live in the present. So your body is in the present, but your mind is living in the past. A big one that needs counseling as well is finances. Remember, post-COVID, so many people are struggling to get back onto their feet because COVID has just done irreparable damage sometimes. Very much the parenting styles are very different, very, very vast and very different. So there'll be challenges with that. And then maybe one or the other would want a separation or divorce, and the other one would want to keep the marriage. So, there's that discrepancy that may need a mediator. And I think for overall seeking of a healthier relationship, accredited professional help is very much needed, I would say.
Now, if someone is feeling discouraged in their marriage, what small steps could they take today to set the relationship on a more positive course?
So, as we said, is to try to spend more time together, right? And it's about being more playful, having more fun together, enjoying life because life is so fleeting. Don't take everything so seriously. I like to always say that enjoy your life because you don't get out alive anyway. So, yes. So it's about communication. It's about gratitude as well. Every morning, if you express gratitude after your Fajr prayer, you will find everything around you starting to look good. Because if you're expressing gratitude for the smallest of things, Allah will take care of the biggest of things in your life. And it's about appreciation as well. Sometimes, like I say, social media is a big one in this, where we're looking at people of the opposite gender and comparing to the wife or the husband that we have here, and then they seem to fall short. And what we don't realize is that no one is what they portray on social media.
Absolutely.
So it's about looking, we as humans, what we try to do is we operate by ego. So we're always looking at the have-not as to the things that we have.
No, absolutely. Now, Sister Razia, I want to thank you for joining me on the program this evening. But obviously, I'm sure you have a message for our listeners.
So I would say that if Allah Ta'ala has bestowed you that grace of having a partner, and remember, that partner was written for you since the beginning of time, right? So it's an amanat that Allah has given you in the sense that to nurture that relationship, to guide each other, to be a garment unto each other, I would say. And also to make sure that we are put here for two reasons into this world, right? The one is when we are faced with adversity, Allah wants to see, who do we turn to? Do we turn away from him or do we turn towards him? And number two is, what legacy do we leave behind? So a legacy need not be empowering thousands of people, but it could definitely mean, how do we empower the people around us? And very much the spouse comes first. So Allah's created divorce for a reason. That is when you've exhausted all other avenues. And when you've exhausted other avenues, then only do you embark on that journey. But other than that, live happily, live safely, and try to overlook each other's faults and understand each other's differences as opposed to always looking for common ground. And for the rest, lies there. Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah khair for joining me in the program. Undoubtedly, it was very, very, it was very educational for me and informative as well. And I'm sure that many of us are going to take cognizance of what you've discussed with us. And let's hope that we can put this into practice so we can improve our marriages as well. Sister Razia Mahomed, once again, thank you very much for joining me in the program. Do enjoy the weekend. All the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah so much for having me on, Brother Faizal, and hope to chat to you soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We spoke to Sister Razia Mahomed, a life coach, and she spoke to us about what would one do differently in marriage to get different results. We're going to take a short break, and on the other side of this, we're going to be joining Fadwa Booley, and she'll be talking to us about addressing the misconceptions surrounding women in Islam.
तस्कीन में ढल जाते हैं गम सभी राहतों तस्कीन में ढल जाते हैं जब करम होता है हालात बदल जाते हैं आका इसमें अहमद का वजीफा है हर एक गम का इलाज इसमें अहमद का वजीफा है हर एक गम का इलाज लाख खतरे हो इसी नाम से टल जाते हैं जब लिया नामे नबी मैंने दुआ से पहले हो गई मुझ पे अता मेरी खता से पहले लाख खतरे हो इसी नाम से टल जाते हैं ये नाम कोई काम बिगड़ने नहीं देता ये नाम कोई काम बिगड़ने नहीं देता ये नाम कोई काम बिगड़ने नहीं देता बिगड़े भी बना देता है बस नाम
We'd love to meet you. Pay us a visit. Radio Ansar. Why wait for Black Friday? The biggest sale starts now. Simplex Radio's Black November deals are here.
Grab the Hisense 55-inch UHD TV for just 5,699, saving you 1,300 rand.
Save a whopping 10,000 rand on the Hisense 100-inch TV. Now only 39,999.
Enjoy 3,000 rand off the Samsung 70-inch UHD TV. Now just 9,999. Plus the Samsung 85-inch UHD TV is only 17,999, saving you 5,000 rand.
Don't let these deals slip away. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Looking for the most affordable family restaurant in Durban? Head on down to Fire and Ice in Overport. Enjoy breakfast deals from $39.90, killer steaks from $99.90, delicious pastas from R59.90, milkshakes from under R20, and all burger deals under $100. We've got something for everyone. Relax while the kids have fun in the play area. Safe parking on site and free delivery. Visit us at 460 Peter Macabre Ridge Road next to the Atrium, Overport City. Fire and Ice, where family dining meets fantastic flavor.
Plan your dream holiday with this specialist, World of Travel, as we pride ourselves in offering you the best in Hajj and Umrah. We also offer travel packages to the Middle East, Far East, and many more exotic destinations. Call our professional travel consultants now on 031 20 8877 or view our website www.worldoftravel.co.za. Visit us at 44 Crescent Street as memorable journeys begin with World of Travel by Irshad Malik.
Want to tantalize those taste buds? Halton's has you covered. From freshly baked treats to imported confectionery that brings international flavors right to your door. Indulge in our daily food menu, home industry goodies, and those household brands that you love, now with global twists. Visit Halton's at 358 Brickfield Road, open till 9 p.m. daily, or call us at 031 207 6108. Halton's, where every bite is a delight.
There's nothing quite like the taste of a traditional family meal, and at the heart of every great dish is a key ingredient that brings it all together. That ingredient is Sunfoil pure sunflower cooking oil, made from only the finest sunflower seeds. It's a perfect way to enhance the taste of your family's favorite foods. Sunfoil cooking oil is more than just oil. It's the key to bring your family together over a delicious meal and making every bite taste better. Remember, the key ingredient to a great family meal is sunfoil. Tradition just tastes better.
Nando's at Saxony Westwood Mall is NIHT approved. Get ready to light up your taste buds with our legendary flame grilled chicken, the taste you trust. From juicy combos, mouth-watering burgers, wraps packed with flavor, bougie bowls, and platters that bring everyone together. We've got deals to make your mouth water. It's the OG of flame grilled goodness. Head on down to Nando's Westwood Mall, bringing the heat one bite at a time.
Radio Al Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Yes, you listen to Let's Chat on Radio Ansar with myself, Faizal MJ Suleman. Now, across the globe, various misconceptions exist about women's rights, responsibilities, and lives within Islamic teachings, with many of these misunderstandings stemming from cultural differences, stereotypes, and incomplete perspectives. In this conversation that we're going to be having, we aim to explore and clarify what Islam actually says about women's roles in family, community, and society. And to join us this morning to discuss this topic, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to Sister Fadwa Booley.
Walaikum salam, Faizal. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, very well, thank you. And Jazakallah khair for joining me on the program this evening. Now, to just introduce...
You're welcome.
Thank you. Just to introduce our guest, Fadwa Booley is a versatile energy specialist, wellness coach, and advocate for holistic health based in Cape Town, South Africa. She is the founder and owner of Mobile Therapies, a company that provides wellness and mental fitness services, focusing on personalized health solutions that integrate physical and mental wellness practices. Now, Fadwa, what are some of the most prevalent misconceptions about women in Islam?
Definitely the dress code, right? Mm-hmm. Because they think that we are oppressed. Yeah. The West is like really shoved it down our faces and our throats to say that when we cover up, we are oppressed. When we wear hijab, when we wear niqab, when we wear scarf on our heads, but they think that we are oppressed. Mm-hmm. But when we debunk it and we look at it from a perspective of why do we actually wear clothing? Right? Mm-hmm. It's a protection for the skin, clearly. Mm-hmm. But in Islam, it's a protection for our entire aura. Mm-hmm. Aura, right? And it's protection from not only evil eye, but also from staring. That's why it's very important for men and the opposite sex to lower the gaze. Mm-hmm. So when the West, especially the West, I'll say the West, right? They say we're oppressed. We're actually not oppressed. It's modesty is so beautiful. And I watched a documentary, one of these reels on Instagram or TikTok or something. And then they asked non-Muslims if they would like to try the hijab. And somebody showed them how to pin it. And the women looked at themselves in the mirror and they actually liked it. Like it was British women and women in Europe. And when they looked at themselves in the mirror, they were smiling and they looked radiant. And they said, like, this is actually making you feel so much better. And then I was chatting to one of my clients recently also in my therapy room. And she said she went overseas and she took two bathers with two swimming costumes. She went to Thailand. And the one was a normal Speedo race back swimming costume. And the other one was like a type of burkini. And then she said when she was in the villa with her husband and in the pool, the local pool at the hotel, she wore the Speedo. But she said she just didn't feel comfortable anymore. And she packed it away and she never looked back. So the thing is, like, when you're actually covering up, you feel more confident. Most women feel more confident when they're covering up. So there is such a big misconception, and I think it's a lack of education, the lack of understanding, the lack of comprehension of why we do certain things and why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained us to actually cover up, you know. And I travel a lot, alhamdulillah. And where was it? In China. I think I was in China or Hong Kong or somewhere. And then when you see the certain women, they actually dress quite modestly in China.
Yeah.
Right? And the minute I came on the airport, and then I saw these, like, not that I want to be racist or anything, like these white women, but they were like so naked. They were like the tiniest of shorts, and they were so naked compared to how even the Chinese people wear, like the Asians. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, they're more naked than anything else, and I just felt like so uncomfortable because they were just so exposed, you know?
Yep. Now, why do you think that these misunderstandings persist despite growing access to information?
It's because I think like again I said, the West is like pushing an agenda, right? They want to make Islam look. I mean, this is all my opinion. They want to make Islam look like we're so from the Stone Ages, and they push that agenda like the way they pushed the agenda all the years that the Muslims are the terrorists and you know, we're oppressed and it's so wrong what we're doing. But now all this whole thing happening up in the Middle East, like with Israel and with Palestine, what's happening is the West is starting to do research. And they're seeing how beautiful our religion actually is. So the misconception about this entire thing and the way they're forcing it down our faces and our throats is a type of indoctrination. It's a type of hypnosis. The more they push the agenda, the more the people will believe the agenda. But you know what's happening? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is exposing them. And they're starting to do research now. And by the day and by the minute, there are people turning to Islam. They are embracing Islam. So alhamdulillah, so for that, because now, and they instantly going into hijab, they're instantly going and wearing the scarf and niqab and stuff, because they're realizing how beautiful it is to actually cover.
And it gives you a sense of dignity as well. You know, when you've got that on.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, can you clarify the role of women in decision-making processes within Islamic teachings?
So, look, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to turn to Sayyidina Khadija, right, for decision makings, right? And if in Islam, we have to come from a space of femininity. When we come from that space, it's a case of nurturing. So when decision making are in the household, the husband is, I'm talking about the household now, right? The husband is the Amir of the house. But what happens is the Amir still needs the support.
Absolutely.
And when they take on that role, by confiding in the wife and even asking her opinion, the marriage becomes stronger. Because now the wife will feel like, I've also got an opinion in the home. And obviously he makes the decision, but they make the decision together. So the opinions are important because women think totally different to men. And men think totally different to women. So there's times when we need a support from a male and a male perspective, and this time men need a perspective from a woman. And that is why we ask each other help and questions and support.
Communication is absolutely vital, and yes, it is important that you seek each other's counsel as well. Now, one common topic, and I think you alluded to that when we started this discussion, is women's dress in Islam. Could you explain the purpose and meaning of hijab and other forms of Islamic attire?
So the purpose of hijab is to cover our beauty, right? What is our beauty? In most cases, our beauty is our hair, and then of course the rest of our bodies. So when we're covering our hair, we're taking away the beauty, but the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shines through the faces. You'll see that some people look more beautiful when they're actually in a hijab than when they loosen and take off the hijab, right? So it is to cover the aura, which is our entire body except our face and our hands. In some madhabs, we can still expose our feet. So it is our aura, which is known as the aura. So in energetical terms, we've got the aura, which is 7 layers of the energy fields, right? And that's why in certain modalities, it's like the 7 chakras, and in so when you look at that, it's an energy field that we need to protect at all times. Because if there's holes in your aura, what happens is the unseen world can easily attach to that and manage to get inside the body. So when we are covering our hair, that's why the old people used to say, make sure you come in before 12 at night and make sure the baby's head is closed. Because when I studied Indian head massage, then Dr. Badat was explaining to us that the baby's head and our head's got these lines on it, like the headache lines and all these lines. And because the cranial bones aren't formed properly yet before the age of 2 years old, that parts of the head can get a draft. So the old people always used to tell us, close the baby's head, make sure they got a beanie on, because sometimes we get a draft and the babies will cry and be unsettled all night because the head will pain. So if you look at that perspective, right, it's closing the baby's heads. And as we're growing up, for us as well, once we become baligh mukallaf, the girl must close the heads, because now we close the hair. And it is a form of protection.
Now, how does Islam view the role of woman within the family, and how does this align or differ from other cultural expectations?
Look, if you look at Surah Al-Nisa and Surah Nisa and Surah Nur, Allah has dedicated one surah especially for women, which is Nisa. So the role of women in Islam is so important because we've got so many, I want to say benefits, but we are so, how can I say, we're like on a pedestal. The way the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to treat women, and they basically put us on a pedestal. So our role in Islam is so big and so huge that we are not actually, they say that we are oppressed, we're not actually oppressed. We've got so much role in Islam, not only the role, but how can I put, I can't find the word now. It's like we've got so much clout actually, so much value. I think it's the value, the value that we have, you know?
Yeah. No,
and sorry?
I say Islam puts women onto a pedestal.
Absolutely. And it's so beautiful to see. You know, and I had this question where they say, do you think that women and men are equal? And my answer is we're not equal. And they said, why do you say that? I said, because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted us to be equal, he would have mentioned it. But we're not. We've got a role. A male has got a role and a female's got a role. And once we understand our roles and once we respect the person that we are with, especially in the household, you will see how beautiful the roles can take place. But it comes down to this case of respect and also knowing your position and role in the household and in the family.
Now, having said that, beyond family life, what role does Islam encourage for women in the broader community that is beyond family life?
Look, in many cases, like now there's a lot of women in corporate, right? Women also teachers. The women got a very nurturing, a natural nurturing and emotional, like I say, a very natural and nurturing way about them. And this in the workplace, it's beautiful because you see it comes out in workplaces, in different types of places, especially in schools, in daycares and things with children. So the role is very important because we need the masculine and the feminine. But what happens is, if the masculine isn't present, the women automatically enter the masculine. Because if you look at our bodies, we're actually half masculine, half feminine. But the one that's nurtured the most is the one that's going to present, right? So let's say you've got a masculine man that knows his role in the home or in the workplace. What will automatically happen is the woman will feel that she can trust the man and she'll step into feminine ways. And that's where the nurturing and the caringness come out of the woman. But if she feels she can't trust the males around her, automatically she's going to stand into masculine, and then she's going to stand basically in the case of, I need to be that role and I need to find solutions. And then it's not actually very flattering to see for a woman to be in that role, because now she becomes very, she's not really emotional, but she becomes very stern. And you see it in dynamics of households where the males fail to be the masculine energy in the house and the women step into that role. And what happens is, and the man will say, this is not the woman I married. You've become so hard. You've become so argumentative, right? But she's forced to become like that because now she's in a masculine energy. So when men step into their purpose and their proper fitra of being the masculine, women will be much softer. Much more softer.
Could you discuss how Islamic teachings encourage respect and balance between men and women in familial responsibilities?
Absolutely. Respect is one of the biggest things in marriage, for marriages, besides communities, for marriages to last, right? If there's no respect, then what happens is, then you'll see that the attitudes also prevail. So when there's respect and appreciation, you will see the nurturing comes out in the woman, and the men will step into their ways and the masculinity to protect. But when women don't feel protected by the husband, like let's say I get the common thread in my therapy room where daughter-in-laws are living with their mother-in-laws, and some mother-in-laws are quite interfering, and the husband doesn't stand up for the daughter-in-law, then what happens is the respect goes away. It goes out of the window. And then the woman steps into masculine. Right? And the men step into feminine, because why? What happens is they're looking for a mom to take care of them. And if the mother is still on the property, the mothers sometimes don't reprimand the men for not being men. And then women they lose the respect for their husbands.
Now, what rights do women have in marriage according to Islamic law?
In marriage, she's got the right over her husband, right? She's got the right over children, right over the household as well. The husband makes the decision, but the wife rules. I wouldn't say rules the roost, but it's a case of taking care of, right? In some cases now that the husband and the wife have to work. And this is where the compromise has to come in. Because sometimes the men learn, and I'm not even sure if I'm answering it correctly, but the men and the women have to work. Now they come home, some men are so used to the mother picking up. And now the role has to be in the home where they have to find a compromise. And for the woman to say, okay, we're both working, can you help me with X, Y, and Z? So the advice that I normally give couples when they do come see me in the therapy room is make a list of needs and wants, right, in the household. The wife's needs, the husband's needs. Those can't be compromised. The wants can be compromised. So a need is a need, it must be fulfilled. A want is something that you can compromise on. Once that is clear in the home and the role of the wife, you'll see that the whole household flows beautifully. But if that is not come down, it's like a lot of people don't know about this, and then they're frustrated, and then the communication and comprehension isn't actually on par with each other, and they're not on the same page. That is when the frustration comes up. So when couples come in and I ask, okay, what's the problem? Then she say, my husband always does this, or my wife always does that. And then I question them, I say, always? Is there one time that she didn't do it? So I always tell the person, like, you can't use the word always. You can't use the word never, because that is not to true statements.
Absolutely.
Now, when you understand this in the household, right? And then I'll say, okay, you make a list of your needs and your wants. You make a list. Now let's compromise. Once they understand each other's needs and wants and also the love languages, you will see how happy the couples become. Because there's different types of ways that a woman and a man shows their love to each other. But sometimes we have an expectation and we expect them to give love the way we like to give love. And in most cases, not the same way. So when you understand that, the role becomes much easier and the compromising, because remember, when you're also compromising, there's one that's going to be compromising and the other one is going to get its way. And sometimes, in some cases, the one always gets its way, and then the compromising doesn't actually work out long term because now the frustration comes and the resentment comes. And once the resentment comes in, it makes holes in your aura and your energy system, and this easily where darkness can enter into your life, into your home, into your bodies because of resentment. That's why it's very important to be on the same page and reevaluate once a week and say, okay, how are we doing? And then once a month as well, and have couples goals and say, but sometimes life becomes so busy that we forget to do these things.
So, how does the Islamic perspective on marriage emphasize partnerships and mutual respect?
Absolutely. The partnership and mutual respect this is why we take a wife and a husband, right? And this is why it's important for education, especially in the ulama now, to set up marriage classes for this very topic.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people get married and they don't even attend marriage classes. And when I advise clients to say, why don't you go for marriage counseling? Then the wife or the woman said, my wife will never go or my husband will never go. But if you want to have a healthy relationship, this is where we have to do it. It's a fundamental, basic need of every household to say that if there's a problem, don't speak to your friends and family about it. Go speak by someone that is fully trained, somebody that knows how to find conflict resolution, somebody that knows how to deal with problems. Because if you're not going to do that, what's going to happen is you're going to take advice from someone who doesn't have a cooking clue what advice to give, and they're just going to give it according to the value system. And that could be a case where the foundation gets knocked down. Because in relationships, and especially in Islam as well, we have to seek counsel from learned people, especially that has known and dissected the Deen and the Quran, because they hold the knowledge. So if you're just going to go anywhere, like let's say, not say there's anything wrong with going to non-Muslims, but I always say it's best to go, especially when you're going for psychology and things, it's best to find a learned person or a Muslim, right? Because they know the Quran. And then the value systems are the same. Because I had clients going to non-Muslims and they encourage like youngsters to move out of their parents' homes. You know, that's just one example I'm giving. And sometimes in counseling, then they will say, no, but your husband is free. He should be able to go out at night. You know, because this is what sometimes the counselors, and then I say, are they Muslim people? Do they know about the Quran? Do they know about Aqidah? What is their belief system like? So that is so important of where you take your advice from. And that is why if you look at the Quran as a whole, it becomes as a manual because for a peace, a way of life, which is peace.
Now, we have Muslim women involved in professional settings. What role do they play in professional settings, and how does Islam encourage this involvement?
In professional settings, especially when it comes to the Quran, if they can go back to the Quran for all areas, then you'll see it will filter through professional settings. But if it's a male-dominant system and it's not necessarily Quran-based, it becomes harder. Especially like dress code maybe in the professional settings, and maybe etiquette, dress code, going back to Quran, because Quran in Islam is basically a big protection for male and women. It's not only for women, but for males and women, because it comes down to a case of etiquette, dress code, behavior, speech, lowering gaze. So it's a lot of stuff of big protection.
And what steps can be taken to improve understanding of women's rights in Islam in today's society?
I see definitely education, right? women and men must seek knowledge. Like Allah says to us in the Quran that we need to seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, even as far as China. It doesn't just stop when we finish our degrees, or it doesn't just stop when we finish the Quran. It needs to continue. So the education part of it, especially the youngsters, we need to find platforms of being able to teach it, like definitely social media. Social media plays a big part, but we need to do it properly. And workshops, like I give a lot of workshops, especially in Cape Town, and soon inshallah I'm going to start online, and I've had a few in Joburg as well, where I bring the mind power, law of attraction, everything, and I debunk it with the Quran, and I show you how it links up, right, from an Islamic and spiritual perspective, from Sunnah and Quran. So being able to understand it, it makes life much more easier, because I'm putting everything in layman's terms. Sometimes people feel intimidated by learning the Quran. I get a lot of people, even if they study the hifz, they don't feel like they deserve it, and they don't feel they're worthy of it. But there must be a lot of youngsters that be able to bring out that knowledge and be able to communicate this so that other people can comprehend it. We will be in a space where social media will do its job. It will be such a perfect platform, because there will be knowledge at our fingertips. And I encourage the youngsters, especially like if you're a blogger, if you're, doing these different things. Because if I go on TikTok, I see a lot of international people from other countries, like maybe Europe or the Middle East, and they're beautiful young girls. And what they do is they speak about surahs of the Quran. They speak about things in a much simpler way. And if this can take off, it will be an education for the youngsters that is turning to social media for advice.
Now, how can Muslim communities and allies work together to break down these stereotypes and highlight authentic perspectives?
Definitely by leaving the ego out, because you must remember, once people have a platform, Shaitan uses the ego to keep people apart, right? When you're having a healthy ego, it's all about unity. So when you take the ego out of the way and look at it as low enough, you'll understand that we can have unity in all areas and platforms, whether it's social media, whether it is getting together for a market, or getting together for education purposes. Sometimes some speakers come down from overseas and you'll get an auditorium full of people. This is where us locals should maybe collab with them and also get people to understand and learn about the work that they offer. So there's different platforms, different ways of doing it, and we shouldn't be afraid, because once you have a vision and once you have a purpose and the purpose is big enough, then everything falls and aligns. You'll see that you get the message across. But when there is no clear purpose, it becomes harder. And if your purpose is dawah, if the purpose is getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and helping other people to get there, you will definitely achieve it. So the listener that's listening out there, if you've got a purpose and you know how to get the message out there, use the platforms, use the different platforms and offer services. Like, alhamdulillah, what I do is I offer my services to different radio stations, whether it's locally in Cape Town, in international, national, and on TV as well. And this is the way I do my dawah, where people can access my information free of charge. They don't have to pay me to sit in my therapy room. So there's different ways and means, and there's a lot of people out there that sometimes need somebody to fill in a gap. And those who can assist should volunteer. Contact the radio station and say, I've got some information, and if you need somebody to fill in, I'll be gladly willing to share the information.
No, excellent. And, what messages would you like our listeners to take away when thinking about women's roles and rights in Islam?
We must remember, us women are so powerful. And the more we love ourselves, the more we know ourselves, the more we know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we become absolutely more powerful. So we mustn't doubt, right? First of all, we mustn't doubt. Secondly is confidence. When you're boosting in confidence with yourself, automatically give other people the confidence to be authentic as well. So authenticity is the main key. When they did the research they said love was the highest the highest vibration on earth, but what was highest, 400 times higher than love, was actually authenticity. So when you're authentic, you're representing Allah on earth. Muslim, each one of us listening right now, and myself as well included, we representing Allah on earth. That is why we're on earth. So if we know our purpose and then we be authentic, you'll see we can reach much more people than being in a space of where you actually in ego and in a protective mechanism. Then you don't communicate with people well, and you don't connect with people well. But when you're actually connecting with people and being authentic, you'll get Allah's message across very quick and very easy, because it will go direct to someone's heart. So my message to all the listeners out there, especially the women, be authentic. Learn to love yourself. The hurt and the pain that you suffered in the past, learn to deal with that. Because once you deal with the hurt and the pain, you will see you shine differently. You will communicate differently with people, and you will connect differently with people as well, with everybody on earth.
Sister Fadwa Booley, thank you very much for having shared those thoughts with us, and for having brought a topic of this nature to the fore and cleared any misunderstanding and created that awareness and the reasons and the beauty of the niqab, parda, the dressing, etc., etc. I want to thank you for joining me in the program this evening, and do have a wonderful weekend, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you.
Alaikum salam. Shukran so much.
You're welcome. We spoke to Sister Fadwa Booley, and she spoke to us about addressing the misconceptions surrounding women in Islam. Well, I want to thank Mondli for having engineered for me this evening. Mondli, thank you very much, and thank you for having attended to all the logistics. Thank you, Hajra Kota, for having produced the show. And of course, thanks to both our guests for having joined us on the program this evening. The next program we're going to be listening to is Ikra Wafam with Brother A.K. Mohammed, and they will be discussing the Holy Quran as well. And it is a program which is highly beneficial to us. It's very educational as well, and of course there's benefit in listening to this program as well. So let's derive the relevant benefits from there. I'm going to be back with you tomorrow morning, inshallah ta'ala, on Rise and Shine. So till then, for myself, Faizal MJ Suleman, do have a wonderful evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وفي الأمين